Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the DCU Experience. I got my sad hat on today because it's just me. I don't know where everybody else is. I couldn't tell you. True actually does have an excused absence here. True is taking a leave of absence for personal reasons, but will be back as soon as he can. As for Crisis, as for Nick, who the hell knows where they're at? They're not here. They're not here. But you know who is? Me. It's not like I'm here every single week. We missed last week, but we're back this week. Crisis was busy last week, so we didn't want to go live, just Nick and I. So we planned to do this week, and then I don't know what happened, and it's just me. So we've got a ton to talk about today. Obviously, Man of Tomorrow is crazy huge news. We got to talk about Peacemaker Season 2. Let's start with Peacemaker Season 2, and then I'll get into Man of Tomorrow stuff towards the end. How does that sound? I mean, it's just going to be me. I can ramble. I'm a rambler. I'm a rambling man. I've known to have a ramble in me from time to time. Thank you for everybody that is here. Remember that we are sponsored by GamerSupps. If you'd like to save 10% on your next GamerSupps order, head to gamersupps.gg/key issues and you can do just that. Get yourself some tasty, tasty beverages. Anyway, moving on, we have Peacemaker Season 2 is out. And before we even get into Season 2, I would like to say that the official companion podcast has been amazing. We watched all of the Season 1 podcast and we watched all of Season 2 podcast. It's really, really great for insight into the story, funny little anecdotes between the actors and James Gunn as the host, and then we get clarification on like what is and is not canon in the DCU. So that's really, really cool. And we also get cool power scaling statements from there from time to time, which we are cataloging and putting it together. But anyway, Peacemaker Season 2. It started off, and it started off a few months after the last one, the first season ended. The team had basically all gone their separate ways, and they're all in sort of like different stages of their lives. And the 11th Street kids have kind of broken up, for a lack of a better term. Economos is down in Belle Reve, and Harcourt is looking for a new job. Adebayo just outed her mother, Amanda Waller. Peacemaker's got nothing to do, as does Adrian's got nothing to do. They just hang out from time to time. The whole group is fractured somewhat after the end of last season. Even though it was like a happy ending, it was a bittersweet ending. So after that happens, we have Creature Commandos, where Rick Flag Sr. meets up with Amanda Waller. They put the Creature Commandos together because of what Adebayo did at the end of Season 1. She outed her mother, Task Force X, yada, yada, yada. So they established Task Force M for Monster, create the Creature Commandos. All of that stuff happens in Pokolistan. We have a bunch of DCU Experience episodes about Creature Commandos if you want to go listen to our opinions and us wax poetic on that series. But that like sort of directly leads into this series, because we have Rick Flag Sr. as a recurring character in this season. Now, he hasn't done much, but he is set up early on and is introduced as the new head of Argus. He's sworn in by the president, yada, yada, yada. He's going to take this role very seriously. In this new role, he now has access to files he previously didn't have access to, those specifically being the files related to the death of his son, Rick Flag Jr., and he finally reads through them. Peacemaker killed his son. Now his sights are set on Peacemaker, trying to find any way to make this guy stumble, catch him doing anything wrong so he can toss his ass in jail and have an excuse to basically get rid of Peacemaker forever, right? That is the goal of Rick Flag Sr. in this newest season. And I really like that angle because it makes someone who's supposed to be a hero and was a hero in Creature Commandos, like he was genuinely a good guy in that show, and you know, doing his best with what he was given and now you're making him the main antagonist of this show. It's just cool to see how the characters can function when they're in different environments, right? And that is one of the great pieces of James Gunn, is just his amazing character writing. Putting these characters in different light makes you think of them completely differently, and I think by the end of the series, maybe we'll end up friggin' hating Rick Flag because we're rooting for Peacemaker, even though he is sort of on his self-destruction arc post season 1, where he's sort of found this new family, and that's like a James Gunn staple of found family. And he kind of does that in Suicide Squad, but things fall apart, obviously, because of his kerfuffle with Rick Flag Jr. and Bloodsport, obviously, and Ratcatcher 2, and all of that sort of comes crumbling down around him. And then he builds up this new family in Peacemaker Season 1, and then they're all split apart. He's kind of lost. His actual family is dead. His father is dead because he killed him. And Peacemaker is sort of directionless, right? It's basically just like him and Eagley at this point. And occasionally he sees his other friends, but not too often. And right now I'd consider his best friend to be Adebayo. But anyway, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We're going back in time a little bit. We have Peacemaker trying to find a new purpose post Peacemaker Season 1, having saved the world against the Butterflies and having met the quote-unquote Justice Gang, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, and then as well as 2 supporting members who aren't official members of the team, Supergirl and Superman. Obviously, just straight retcon from the DC Extended Universe, where that was Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman. So basically everything from Season 1 happened exactly how it did, except the ending. And he wants to join the Justice Gang. Maybe Peacemaker Season 2 would have been him trying to join the Justice League, and we get like sort of a similar funny scene, but we live in this better reality where it's the Justice Gang. So we get Hawkgirl, Maxwell Lord, who is funding the Justice Gang, as well as Green Lantern, and they sort of just talk shit on him the whole time because they think they're muted, yada, yada, yada. It's a very funny scene, and it was nice to see those characters in an early scene because we're literally just coming hot off the heels of Superman, and we're already getting like a lot of crazy interconnectivity, which is what you really love with, you know, these expanded universes like the MCU, the DC Extended Universe, among others. So the connection is all there, and that really just puts a smile on my face knowing that it is going to be a focus, but something that's not necessarily going to distract from everything else. Because I think we are going to get a lot of interconnectivity in certain like pockets, and you'll get more from watching everything, but you don't necessarily need to watch everything. Like, you didn't need to watch Peacemaker Season 1 to watch Superman, but if you watch Peacemaker Season 1, then you got to see the Peacemaker cameo, and you're like, oh, it's Peacemaker, I love him. And you could probably do that without seeing Season 1 anyway. So the same goes with Creature Commandos, right? If you did watch Creature Commandos going into Superman, you're like, oh, that's Rick Flag Sr. I know what he's about. Like, he's with the Creature Commandos, he's with Argus, yada, yada, yada. You know a little bit more personally about him, but you don't need to see that, right? So that's where we are with Peacemaker. Adebayo is in a tough situation because she is now broken up with her girlfriend. They're moved out from one another, and she's in a tough transitionary period in her life as well. Harcourt, same thing. Can't find work. Amanda Waller is blackballing her left and right. It sucks. Economos is being forced to spy on his good friend Peacemaker and the rest of the group, right? That sucks. Adrian, nobody likes him. That sucks. He's kind of still in just the exact same place. And then, of course, we already talked about Peacemaker is on this path towards self-destruction. So he has this crazy big orgy, and we know that he is, as he says himself, sort of drowning his sorrows in the flesh, if you will. And it's a really, really tough scene to watch. I mean, all this crazy, like, sex is having around him, and he's, like, crashing out and losing it. And he's thinking about, rewind again, that alternate universe he went to at the beginning of the series, at the season, when he's letting Eagley fly around in his father's pocket dimension. where this pocket dimension came from, we don't really know. We know that Augie like made it. Maybe we'll get more information on it later, because it seems like kind of more stable than Lex's, and it has portals to a bunch of other dimensions. I wonder if there's like a white dragon core, or like an Illuminati type, like Council of White Dragons. I doubt it. He seems like a pretty bad guy. But you know, they could have all worked on this together. Again, I don't think that's the case. But what is interesting is Peacemaker's door seems to be like a couple down from the alternate reality that he goes into. Peacemaker, we'll just call him Peacemaker 2's reality, Earth 2, right? And it's funny that neither of these universes have intersected up to this point that we know of. Especially because Peacemaker 2 has been known as a kid to be like a little bit of a troublemaker, a little bit of an angsty guy, a little bit of a mischievous little scamp, and would go out and go into different dimensions pretty regularly. And these doors are like not far apart, obviously. Maybe we'll get some sort of map inside of there, but like Peacemaker finds the other helmets from the other dimension in the pocket dimension, is like pretty shocked about it. So obviously he's never seen it, but he grew up with this pocket dimension his entire life, right? So that's all very weird to me, and I hope that like comes together in a more cohesive, better way. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. He goes into this thing, he sees his deceased father, he freaks out, he leaves. But for the short time that he's in there, he sees that him and his father and his brother are a trio, a superhero trio that do good, right? They're do-gooders in this universe, and he is sort of entranced by that. So during this orgy, the drugs, the sex, the alcohol, it's all not giving him what he needs. It's not filling the hole in his heart, and he says, you know, F this, I'm going to the other dimension. He pops it open, he goes in, he checks it out, and he immediately recognizes Keith, which is so interesting because he's obviously never seen his brother as a full-grown adult, but he knows that it's him immediately, and sort of makes that familial connection with him. And it's like a really weird Alice through the looking glass type situation, where everything is like turned on its head and nothing is right. But when he takes a step back and looks at things, it is all actually perfect. And it is the life that he probably always dreamed of and always wanted. A happy life with a loving, caring father. His brother's alive. He's dating the woman of his dreams, literally. And he wants to make that a reality. He spends a little bit too much time. He overstays his welcome there. And what ends up happening is he runs into Peacemaker 2. Peacemaker 2 thinks he's a shapeshifter. They both end up into the pocket dimension. They fight. Peacemaker 1 accidentally kills his doppelganger. And end of episode. I thought it was a really good place to start off. It hooks you immediately because of the alternate reality stuff. It opens up so many different possibilities. We tightly wrap up the DC Extended Universe connection, so there's no worries there. And we also get the taste of everything else that we want from the episode. We get our action fix with Harcourt, who again is going out and hurting herself on purpose, as some sort of self-infliction, some sort of punishment, or some sort of like thrill seeking, you could say. And this is something, that's like incredibly consistent and something that we have seen her do throughout season 1. And this is a continuing trend here, where Harcourt like seems like kind of a stable person, but genuinely might be like the most broken of the entire group. So we get some great action. We get the Justice Gang inclusion. We catch up with all the other characters. We know what's going on with them. We get Economos in a really sticky situation. We establish the antagonist as Rick Flag Sr., and we're off to the freaking races. So I really, really liked episode 1. And then we get straight into episode 2, and we're getting into more Rick Flag Sr. stuff. He wants Peacemaker taken down, but he is obviously been granted a lot of latitude by the U.S. government because he saved the world via Project Butterfly, and the world owes him a debt in some way. But Rick Flag Sr. understands this, but doesn't really care, right? So he's not going out and just arresting Peacemaker for no reason, but he is doing everything within his power to catch Peacemaker doing something that he should not be doing, and that thing could be opening an interdimensional portal to a pocket dimension that almost ended the world, that Superman had to stop, with the help, of course, from Mr. Terrific and the other Justice Gang members, in the Superman film. Right, that pocket dimension literally almost split the universe in half and ended the life on this planet as we know it. Is an extreme danger that now all governments on the planet need to keep an eye on, and they have developed some sort of tracking technology to know when these interdimensional anomalies pop up, happen, and can pinpoint them pretty easily. So they are able to locate one in Peacemaker's residence, which John Economos is able to get proof of. He passes his proof on to Autobio, who needs to tell the information to Peacemaker. She makes Peacemaker aware that Argus is watching him. Don't open the portal. Turn it in. You got to do this. But there's a big issue because he killed a doppelganger of himself, and that doppelganger is stuck in the interdimensional portal. If the other White Dragon, if the other Augie Smith, and the other Keith Smith find this body, then all hell is going to break loose. You might have like an interdimensional incident, an interdimensional war. You don't even know how connected the trio is in that universe to like somebody that could be like the Justice Society or the Justice League, right? Or you could even have nefarious evil versions of the Justice League in those worlds. You don't know, and it could cause a really major issue, right? But I think Rick Flag Sr. would probably be more than happy to send his Peacemaker over there, clapped in irons, if you will. So Peacemaker's in a tough position. What does he do? He calls old, reliable serial killer Adrian Chase, one of his good buddies, to come over to help him dismember this Peacemaker and burn it alive in the interdimensional trash can where some alien puts his dead rats for some reason. Maybe we'll find out more about that later, but yeah, I feel really bad for Adrian here. Obviously, Peacemaker is telling him, like, yeah, I was drowning myself in the sorrows, and this was just, there was nothing friendly about what was happening here. And maybe I would have invited my friend had it been just a regular, good old-fashioned, classic, fun orgy. Because, again, they did have the threesome in Season 1, Vigilante and Peacemaker did, so it's not something that they haven't done before, and something Vigilante considers to be like a friend bonding thing. He's not a big sex guy, but he is like a serial killer, and it was definitely giving like Dexter vibes, dismembering this body. And obviously Peacemaker was completely broken up about it while Adrian was having the time of his life. After they do this, the phone falls out of Peacemaker 2's pocket, and Peacemaker 1 can't help himself. Obviously, the technology unlocks with Peacemaker's face because they have the same face. He's able to scroll through it and see that Harcourt is a significant part of his life, even more so than he had thought previously. He sees all the pictures of them together in bed. Like, obviously, they were very, very close. Keith mentions that Peacemaker Chris had fumbled the bag with his ex, so obviously that is Harcourt, and he's very, very tempted by this revelation. But before he can go any further with that, he needs to go to the 11th Street Kid meetup, excuse me, because John Economos is back in town, and they are throwing a get-together where they all can come together. And this is the point where we're introduced to the new character played by the immaculate, very funny Tim Meadows, Flurry, who is sent to be Economos' babysitter because Rick Flag doesn't trust Economos. Obviously, Economos was giving very untrustworthy vibes in their first meeting. And also, Economos is just a close associate of Christopher Smith, so maybe not the best person to even have monitor Christopher Smith if he can't be objective in his duties as an Argus agent, right? So Flurry is sent in. Flurry, to me, is going to be like the comedic relief that maybe Peacemaker was in the first season of his own show. This is a very unserious character. He is like the opposite of Myrn from season 1. And I think we might get to see him do some crazy badass stuff because he is obviously a member of Argus, but he is very laissez-faire, it seems, for the most part. But I think that might be a mask that he's wearing, just based on the performance and some of the writing. I think he might be like a serious kind of guy that's really, really good at his job. Obviously why he was sent there in the first place, right? Even though he gets dressed down a little bit by his superiors in the episode, and then obviously what happens after. Of course, he is cracking wise, making jokes, and being very creepy with Economos. And then we learn about the strike team. We need to send a strike team in. We need to find out more about this interdimensional portal that Peacemaker has access to, right? And sorry, I was just reading a comment from General Shepard in the chat talking about James Gunn writing his wife in a relationship with somebody else. But I mean, I think it's fine. I don't think it's too weird. But where was I? Oh yeah, the strike team shows up and he gives them all these different names, like Encino Man. I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head. Pony Boy, and obviously Titties, which is my favorite one. So the guy is just super unserious. They go in, they find the interdimensional portal with some sort of Argus high tech, and then they get jumped by Eagley. And Eagley really gets their first big time to shine. It's like a solo fight scene between Eagley and 5 elite strike team members from Argus, like some of the most well-trained soldiers probably in U.S. Armed Forces, and completely dismantles them. So it was really, really cool to see of Eagley completely unscathed, dodging bullets and bullying this elite strike team, tearing out one of their eyes, nearly killing another with the beak stab into their neck. Really love that scene, and now it's like Eagley and Crypto are both like these badass pet sidekicks, and maybe we'll get some weird super pets thing down the road. But while this is happening, meanwhile, over to Harcourt's place, she does her best to cover up her scars and bruises from the previous episode when she got into that fight. The 11th Street kids meet, they get drunk, and they start gossiping and telling each other stories. And we have one quiet moment between Christopher Smith and Amelia Harcourt, where Chris is sort of identifying the similar things that he sees about himself in Harcourt, the self-destruction, the willingness to go out and pick these fights, get yourself beat up, yada, yada, yada. It's like a self-punishment, and Chris kind of sees that. Harcourt is kind of unwilling to see that within herself. Chris says, like, it takes one to know one. And she is like offended by that because she finds the idea of like superheroism to be a little bit silly and would never consider herself to be one. Although I think we could eventually see Harcourt take up a superhero mantle at some point. But she doesn't see herself that way. She's picking fights with people that really haven't done anything other than like, you know, harass her in a bar. But she went into that bar to be harassed to get into the fight. So, like, she is setting these guys up to get their asses kicked. And whether they were being weird and creeps at the bar, I don't think they deserve to have, like, their arms shattered and things like that. So it was a nice moment between Amelia and Christopher that turned really, really sour really, really quickly. And we know that something is going on with them. We see Adebayo and Economos talk about it very briefly, and it's also just blatantly like sort of shown to us in episode 1 when Peacemaker goes over to Amelia's house and they talk about something that happened on a boat. Did they kiss? Did they sleep together? We don't know quite yet what happened. Amelia thinks it was a mistake. Chris thought it was a good thing. Obviously, he's head over heels for her. And now we see it sort of falling apart. He sees his chance slip away, even though he was doing the right thing and trying to help her and be somebody that she could open up to potentially. But she puts her walls back up, is very defensive, and tears him down in the process. So he gets wasted, heads home. The house is a complete wreck. He thinks that Eagley was just messing about, destroying it. And in this sort of drunken stupor, he decides to text Amelia from the other dimension with the phone from Peacemaker 2. But obviously it doesn't send because whatever phone service he has doesn't have interdimensional texting. So what does he have to do? He has to go through the portal. So drunkenly he does do it. He goes through. The text goes through. She texts back. And he is hooked. He says, fuck it. Amelia Harcourt in the main universe doesn't love me. She doesn't want to be with me. My life is falling apart. I'm being tracked by Argus. My best friends are keeping an eye on me. I've got nothing going on. The Justice Gang doesn't want me. The father of the man I murdered wants me dead. I can easily swap places with this other alternate dimension Peacemaker. Maybe not easily, but I can try to. And assimilate myself into a new, better life where everything is exactly how I want it. I have a beautiful, loving family. I'm with the girl of my dreams again. So yeah, that's where episode 2 ends. And I think there's more to this Earth 2. My guess is everything over there is not A-okay. And maybe this is too much of a trope that I'm like reading into and we're not going to get into something like this, but I could foresee like everything being perfect. It's amazing over here. Obviously Peacemaker's going to be over there drinking the Kool-Aid. He's going to want to stay there. He's going to hear the siren song from this alternate dimension. To put it in like, I guess you would call it Homeric terms, right? From the Odyssey. And I think he will be lured in by it, and there could be some sinister things happening underneath. Is everything all roses over there? Is his dad really this true hero? Is his brother really this true hero? Are there skeletons in their closet? Everyone's got skeletons in their closet other than Superman, maybe. And Peacemaker is going to find out about them, I think. That would be my guess. That's my pivot into something completely different other than what I think everybody thinks is going to happen, which is Peacemaker goes over there, he eventually screws up, and the two universes like need to come to a head and resolve themselves. Because obviously Rick Flag Sr. is going to want to know where Peacemaker is. He disappeared. Where the hell is he? We need to get back in there. He's going to get information from the strike team who got messed up by Eagley, and he might even send the strike team into this other universe, which is going to out Peacemaker. So I'm just like throwing theories around. I think that is something that could definitely happen. Let me know in the chat what your theories are with Earth 2. I think there are like an infinite number of possibilities here. But those are my two big ones. One being Earth 1 invades Earth 2, which outs Peacemaker as a fraud, or Earth 2 is not all it seems, and there are some bad things happening under the surface. But so far, I'm really digging Season 2. I like it a lot. I think James Gunn has some really funny stuff in here, but there's some humor that's like hit and miss, and it's always going to be this way with with James Gunn. The like humor is very subjective. Some jokes you're gonna laugh at, some you're not, and they come at you at a very rapid pace. And some of the Peacemaker humor is a little lowbrow for me. He's in love with these kind of the like lowbrow humor, which is fine, and it hits with a lot of different people. Sometimes it's very funny. Like I thought the titties name was hilarious, and the actress's reaction to that was so funny. But then other things like the bird blindness hit. It was actually funnier the second time I watched it, but the first time I was like, I don't really know about this. It seems like a little too far-fetched. You know what I mean? Even though things like face blindness is like a true, real thing that exists. Dang, you thought Eagley was gonna die, like get shot or something? I would have cried. General Shepard, thank you so much for the $5. If you ever leave a super chat down in the chat, we will answer that question. Usually we do it at the end, but it's just me, so I'll tackle it right now. Why not? General Shepard says, props to Garrick for doing the stream solo. Also, any new scaling info in the behind the scenes of Superman. Hashtag shout out to Natalie Portman. General Shepard, one of the OGs. Definitely shout out to Natalie Portman. I haven't bought Superman yet because I'm not planning to make like a new power scaling video for Superman just yet. I want to wait until it is out physically and buy the Blu-ray or the 4K, whatever, Ultra HD that comes out. So I have the physical edition, and then usually those come with a code. So hopefully that happens. I don't want to buy it twice. But as soon as I have access to that, obviously I'll be digging through it with a fine-tooth comb. But we are getting a bunch of different stuff from the Amazon.com X-Ray edition, which other people have been digging through, and thank you so much for doing that. Shout out to the chat champ who's been posting that stuff in there. There's definitely some interesting stuff, but nothing like world altering or like completely changing how we think about the tier list for these characters. So again, thank you so much for the super chat. All right, so that's how I feel about Peacemaker Season 2 thus far. Really, really like it. New episode is tomorrow. Really excited for that. And then hopefully we can get the opinions of Nick and Crisis next week. So let's talk Man of Tomorrow. Man of Tomorrow. James Gunn, throughout the press tour of Superman, was saying he was already working on a sequel. And we know that, like, previous to this, he was like, define what a sequel is. What is a sequel? So we were thinking, like, is it, like, World's Finest or something? Or it's not a direct Superman sequel. That's, like, the vibes we were getting. And then now he drops this news that Man of Tomorrow is coming, and we get some really cool art from one of the all-time great comic book artists, Jim Lee. And the art depicts Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor and David Corenswet's Superman, and Lex Luthor has the power armor, the Lex power armor on. Superman is standing there leaning up against Lex with a screwdriver. So my guess is for this Man of Tomorrow film, and why maybe James Gunn was saying it's not a like direct sequel, is it's a Lex and Superman team up movie, which is just awesome. We've seen these sort of things happen before where Lex either willingly or unwillingly decides to work alongside the superheroes, even joining the Justice League at one point. And this time we may see it begrudgingly between the two. Superman requires the help of Lex to take down some other villain. Who that villain could be is up in the air. Brainiac is obviously one I would immediately leap to, because Brainiac is not something that we've seen in live action. So, well, other than like Krypton and stuff like that. So not in a film, right? And I think James Gunn could bring Brainiac to the big screen for the first time. And if I was like to think about, if I were to think about a Brainiac for James Gunn to write like a Brainiac, my mind immediately goes to, and James Gunn's written some great villains, but my mind goes to the High Evolutionary from Guardians 3. So I think that's a distinct possibility, and I think we could see Chuck Woody Owuji play Brainiac. Now, I know he already played Myrn, right? But James Gunn has already said he would be willing to use other actors in new roles. And I'm again, this is all speculation, this is all guesses. We don't know nothing, right? Well, we know a little bit. I'll get into that in a second. But as far as the villain goes, we don't really know. He said he would recast actors he's used before, and Chuck Woody would be one that I think would be very high on the list. He's incredible. Obviously, as the High Evolutionary, he was insane. And then as Brainiac, he could bring an entirely new dimension to that character. But essentially what James Gunn said was the person that played the character before would just be a different like actor, right? They would just recast them as a different actor. Or you would just remember them as not Chuck Woody Owuji. If that makes any sense. That would be my top pick for Brainiac. And obviously James Gunn likes to go back to the well with the actors he's worked with in the past. So yeah, that would be my pick, and I think that would be really, really cool. As far as like other news around the Man of Tomorrow film, there is speculation out there that the film is going to feature Peacemaker, Lobo, Supergirl. That's why we haven't seen the last 3 episodes. The press hasn't seen the last 3 episodes of Peacemaker, because there's a lot happening, and I think we might get a huge lead up into Man of Tomorrow, a ramp up into it. I would also like to mention that Aaron Pierre might be in it. And for the people who don't know who Aaron Pierre is, he is playing John Stewart, the Green Lantern, in the Lantern series. So Isabella Merced posted on her story, she said, "See you soon." Isabella plays Hawk Girl, and she posted the art that James Gunn had sent out of Superman and Lex Luthor. She said, "See you soon." And Aaron Pierre, the actor playing John Stewart, replied, "Yes, indeed," with a green heart. So we could be seeing John Stewart, Hal Jordan in this film as well. So maybe that's why James Gunn said it's not necessarily a Superman sequel, because it's going to have all of these other supporting characters. You could get the whole Justice Gang, Green Lantern Corps could be involved in some capacity, Lobo, Supergirl, Peacemaker. We have all of these moving parts all coming together simultaneously. So I'm really, really excited for that. General Shepard mentions Blue Dragon and Peacemaker's brother Keith talk about killing imps. 5D Peacemaker confirmed. Unfortunately, those imps are not on the level of Mr. Mixie or Batmite. James Gunn already confirmed that they're just called imps. They're not like fifth dimensional. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. Obviously, it's crazy, awesome, amazing news. And we are getting this the same year as the Batman Part 2, and as a Batman Part 2 merge into the DCU truther, I would love to see that connection come together. Will it happen? Likely no. Do I want it to happen? Yes, I do. And I'm sorry. I'm like burping a lot. My bad, everybody. But yeah, this is incredible news. Super, super happy to have a sequel done and dusted. And we're like back to the freaking glory days of like comic book movies, whereas like you'd get a movie and 2 years later you'd get a sequel. None of this like 5, 6, 7 friggin' years later stuff, man. Like, when did Batman Part 1 come out? It's gonna be like half a decade till the next one or more. And like back in the days, we got Spider-Man 1, 2 years later we got Spider-Man 2. Iron Man 1, 2 years later, Iron Man 2. Like, that's just Thor 1, 2 years later, Thor 2. Yeah, that's how movies should go, I think. And they've had these crazy long lead up and production times, and we're getting back to the good old days of movies coming out, their sequels coming out in like a reasonable time frame. Because if you wait so long in between all these movies, like, your actors aren't getting any younger, they're gonna find other projects, things are gonna get mucked up and mired up, and it's just just keep them working, keep writing. Start writing the third movie, man. Let's go. Let's get into it. Let's get locked in. Let's get laser focused. And James Gunn has been laser focused, man. He's been in the freaking writer's room, absolutely crushing it since this universe started. Peacemaker Season 1, Creature Commandos, not to mention he wrote the Suicide Squad. So starting from Suicide Squad, and then right after that, he wrote Peacemaker Season 1, and then he gets into writing Superman, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 2, and now he's written Superman 2. So he's out there, he's crushing it. Thank God for James Gunn. He is keeping DC alive, and DC is not going anywhere. It is here to stay, as the thumbnail says, and I'm very, very happy about it, man. We're bringing cinema back because I'm tired, again, of these long, distant, these crazy time frames, man. Like, when did Shang-Chi come out? Like 2019, 2020? We're not gonna. When's Shang-Chi 2 coming out? Never? Like, what is happening? You know what I mean? And I hate that. It was a good movie. It should have got a sequel by now. It's just crazy how all of this is happening. Like, we should have had a Captain America 4 a long time ago. It should have just been Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but that's a whole different story. That's a whole different podcast. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, we're running up to it here. I already did the Rohan, thank you, 2021 Shang-Chi came out. When is the sequel coming out? Maybe never, maybe one day. I don't know what we're doing. Shang-Chi is going to be like an old man by the time that comes out. The only movies that they get coming out recently are like Spider-Man. They get the Spider-Man movies out, done and out and ready. And then obviously this newest one's taking a while, but we had a whole trilogy plus all his appearances in Infinity War. So hopefully things are looking up and things are going well for not only DC but like movies in general, man. The amount of time it takes to get to a sequel these days is ridiculous. Anyway, we are running up to it. I've sat here and I've sat here and I've ranted for 48 minutes. My throat is dying. If you want to leave a super chat, I'll stay for any last second questions or comments. But other than that, I've been talking nonstop for 50 minutes and I need to drink some water, and I didn't bring any water up here. So we're cooked. Again, I don't know where Crisis is. He's been MIA as far as the DC Universe Experience goes. Nick MIA, and then obviously I already talked about it, True has some personal stuff going on. So hopefully Nick and Crisis join me next week for next week's review of Peacemaker, and we'll talk about episode 3 and we'll get into more news. There's some Swamp Thing news that came out as well, and I'm excited to talk about that, especially with Nick, who is really and truly a Swamp Thing supporter. So, again, I've been here for a long time. I need to go get some water. Thank you to everybody that stopped by. A huge shout out to General Shepard, one of the OGs, one of the legends of Key Issues, for the super chat. Really appreciate you. We will see you next week here on Key Issues in the DCU Experience. I am Garrick for Nick, Crisis, and True. We will see you next week. Peace.